Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. God blessed us with a great day for outdoor service. And appreciate everybody being here. And in a few moments we'll be eating. But before that, I'm going to give you a lesson here. How many of you have ever watched the show Cheers? Just about everybody? At least seen the reruns and all? What's that show about? A bar? Okay. Yeah, Daryl?
Hanging out in the bar.
Guys hanging out in the bar?
The way they interact with each other.
Okay, interaction with each other.
Martine had the record.
What's that?
Martine.
Martine, yes.
Oh, I said a bar where everybody knows your name.
A bar where everybody knows your name. Okay, yeah.
Just all the different stories of people's lives that come out when they're hanging out talking at a bar.
Okay, yeah. Yes, Debbie.
It's about relationships.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
That's what I
yeah.
was going to say.
That's what you, yeah. Mike, you just had
I
me out
was going
there.
to say friendships, but you said
Yeah,
relationships.
well,
That's the same
Debbie nailed it. You know, that is really what that show is about. It was voted the funniest comedy in sitcom history up to that time. And but it is about relationships. It's about a fundamental desire that we all have to find connection with other people. I want to read you. You remember how it always starts with that song?
Everybody knows your name.
Everybody knows your name. Let me read you the words of that. Listen to these words. Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. You want to be where you can see our troubles are the same. You want to be where everybody knows your name. And these are some lyrics that are in part of the song that are not usually sung. All those nights when you've got no lights, the check is in the mail, and your little angel hung the cat up by its tail. And your third fiance didn't show. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. You want to be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You want to be where everybody knows your name. Roll out of bed, Mr. Coffee's dead. The morning's looking bright, and your shrink ran off to Europe and didn't even write. And your husband wants to be a girl. And then he closes with this. Be glad. There's one place in the world where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to go where people know people are the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name. It is about relationships.
That's right.
It is about friendships. It is about connection. And the song describes, we all struggle with different things in our lives, different struggles. We all have them. It may be health, it may be family, it may be job. We all struggle with different things in life. And it's good to get away from it and just have some time to connect with other people that are in the same battle. And, when I think about the church, and I think about what God designed for the church, I think He designed it to be a place where we can find connection.
Yes.
I watched as people came down the steps this morning in different families. And I thought, we're still small enough where you know everybody's name. And I know that everybody felt the same thing I do. As you see people come, oh, that's Eli's family. I love Eli's family. There's Raul and Angela's and Angelise. There's Julie. She's coming. And we know each other's name. And it's so easy for us to take for granted the connections that we have in the church. A lot of people in the world don't have. One of the major issues in life today is just plain loneliness. People that feel disconnected. Let me read you a passage that I know we're all familiar with. It's in Acts chapter 2. And beginning with verse 42. And it describes the early church when it first started. And sometimes there's an excitement about a new start that you always aim for. It's always something you look back to. But listen to how it describes the early church. It says in Acts chapter 2:42, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together. They had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as he had need. And every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes. They ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God, enjoying the favor of all the people, and the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. That is such a great picture of the early church. When Luke gets ready to describe the church, he says there's one word that characterizes this early church when it first began. There's one word that you'll find in all the things he says. They were devoted. As we would say today, they were committed. Well, what were they devoted to? The thing that brought them all together was they were devoted to God. They were devoted to pleasing God with their lives and their relationship with God. But it also says that they were devoted to the apostles' teaching. You know, I marvel, some of you are new Christians, and it's exciting to be around you because you just have that hunger. I want to know more. I want to know more what the Bible says. I want to know more about what I need to do and how I need to obey God. That's exciting. Devoted. And as we get older, we kind of lose some of that. If we're not careful, we lose that excitement about it. And the challenge isn't that we know what it says. The challenge becomes, am I living it? And there's a hunger and a thirst. They were devoted. They were committed to the apostles' teaching. I want to know what God's will is for my life. It says they were devoted to the breaking of bread. And I don't think it means that they were devoted to eating. I think it was they were devoted to observing the Lord's Supper. They were devoted to coming together to remember the Lord and to serve the Lord with their lives. They were devoted to prayer. Devoted to asking God in every aspect. You know, as you read the book of Acts, you see Peter and John are arrested. What does the church do? Everybody gets together, and what do? They pray. God, help us. Help us to be bold in this time. They depended on God. They were devoted to prayer. And then it says this. They were devoted to the fellowship. They were devoted to the fellowship. Well, what does that mean? They were devoted to one another. They were devoted to relationships. They were devoted to being connected. They were devoted. And you see in this passage that they're looking out for each other's needs. There's not a needy person among them, and there's thousands of them. And that's the way the church ought to be. There's a common desire to build those relationships. You know, the Crystal Cathedral, I've mentioned this before, started out in California. Schuller became famous for it. You remember how it started? It started as a drive-in theater. It started as, he got the idea that, well, we need something that's convenient for people. Now, we don't have many drive-in theaters today. I understand there's one in Orlando. Is that right? There's a drive-in theater. And basically what you do, if they're still doing it this way, you drive up, you take the speaker, you put it inside your car, and you watch the movie. You put the speaker back when it's over, and you drive off. You don't have to connect with anybody else in that parking lot. You can enjoy whatever it is. And he got the idea, well, let's let people come up in the privacy of their own car. Let's put a speaker in there. They can hear some good gospel music. They can hear some preaching. And then when that's over, they put it back on the stand and drive off. Nothing could be farther from what God designed the church to be. That's right. It was never designed to be something that you just do in the privacy and you just do whatever you want to do and then you leave. You don't have any connection with people. And yet today, we don't have drive-in theaters, but it would be easy for us to make that mistake. That church is a place where you go and you worship and then you leave. And we would miss so much of what God has in store for us if we handle church that way. It's about not only worship, it's about relationships. It's about discipling one another, helping one another to grow. It's looking out for the needs of each other. It's building friendships. It's having fun. What do we find the early church doing? They're meeting in one another's homes. They're eating together. Let me read you what how the Message Bible puts this. It says, everyone around was in awe. All those wonders and signs done through the apostles and all the believers lived in a wonderful harmony, holding everything in common. They sold whatever they owned. They pooled the resources so that each person's need was met. They followed a daily discipline of worship in the temple, followed by meals at home. Every meal a celebration, exuberant and joyful as they praised God. People in general liked what they saw, and every day their number grew as God added those who were being saved. You know, this connection, again, we can take for granted that, you know, what does that have to do with anything? Well, what Luke is pointing out is that it was a part of the reaching the lost. It was a part of evangelism. People were attracted to what they saw in the church. They were attracted to those relationships. You know, again, we can take for granted the relationships that we have. We can take for granted that we can hug each other and greet each other and enjoy talking to one another. We think that's just what everybody does. No, everybody doesn't do that. I've heard a number of times in South Lake and in Orlando and in Boston, I've heard people say and make this comment. Are you people for real? Is this real?
Yeah.
Because it's so out of the ordinary.
Yep.
I remember when I worked for the Boston Globe, I had to be really careful because I found myself walking up to my boss and wanting to hug him. Well, that doesn't go over too well. But you don't do that in your office. You make some friends, you have some acquaintances that you're close to, but the church is different.
Yeah.
And people see that. There are people that go away and say, I want that. I want that in my life. And it opens them up to the gospel. It opens up. The gospel, becoming a Christian is both caught and it's taught. It must be taught, but it's also caught. If all the world sees is a group of people coming together and singing a few songs and listening to a preacher, and that's all they see that the church is, they're not going to be attracted to that.
Right.
But if they see a dynamic fellowship, people that love one another, love being together, committed to the fellowship, they see an excitement, an exuberance, that's attractive because the world doesn't have that. Don't ever forget that. You know, the church is a place where everybody knows your name. Amen. Even in a church like Boston, we had 5,000 at one time. And of course you didn't know everybody in the church by any means, but the church was divided into sectors. Sectors were divided into house churches, which was usually 30 to 60 people. And then the house churches were divided into Bible talks. And you always had this sense of being in an intimate gathering of Christians, even though you were in thousands of people in that church. And it was exciting. And we're building, we're forming a foundation. And may we, as a church, may we be devoted to the apostles' teaching, devoted to the breaking of bread, devoted to prayer, devoted to the fellowship. And you know, devoted to breaking of bread and prayer. Let me just say this. We should never just skip church. We should never, if we're going to be aware, whatever it is, we need to have a sense of responsibility to the fellowship, to be there, to receive and to give. That's what devotion is all about. And always remember this. You are important to the body.
Yeah.
It's important. When somebody's missing, it leaves a big hole.
Right.
And you may think, well, that's just me. I don't know about it. Yeah, that's you. People care about you.
That's right.
They look for you. They want you. They want to know what's happening here. What's going on if you're not there. So we have a tremendous blessing in the church. It's one of God's great gifts to the world. If we live it, if we practice it, and if we're devoted, and we go back to that kind of devotion that God began the church with, the church is a great place. I know your name, and I'm glad you came.